My name is Justin Gansman. I'm 40 years old. First thing I can remember is being 7 years old and everything starts going bad with my parents splitting up and getting a divorce. And that's when I started discovering how deeply I felt things and when my depression started. It was kind of hard because, I always thought family was supposed to be together forever. That's where this testimony will start, and it will also end with family. That's because family's always been my main thing, and it's been the center of all the things I've been through and succeeded at. So after my parents split up, there was never a steady home. We've always bounced around between family and friends, and this was when I was just a kid. Parents always fighting over who got control of us because they wanted the money from child support. It didn't feel like we were really loved, not even by the family we stayed with, except for the cousins. They treated us like close family, and they were just as young as we were, so I'm assuming that's why. But that bond kind of stuck for quite a while. Our cousins were basically our best friends. Well, we're staying at my dad's parents' house, and I'm about 13 now, and we get a phone call from my aunt saying that her middle son had died in a car accident, and her youngest son was in the same car accident in the hospital, and my world just went even darker because the one that died was basically like a brother to me. His name was Uriah. So that's when I really started getting rebellious, I would say. I started smoking cigarettes. I started trying weed. I was drinking at the age of 13. So we stayed at his parents' house for a good 3 years. I think that was the longest we ever had a steady home, was for that 3-year period. Around the age 15, I got sent to a children's home because my dad called the cops on me. I started busting my dad out for all of his, because I was starting to wisen up and learn what drugs were. Well, I started calling him out on it. Well, he didn't like that. So we get into big arguments, and instead of continuing the argument, I would leave to go to my uncle's house right up the road. And every time I do that, my dad would call the cops on me. Well, after the third time, I got put on probation, juvenile probation for it. I ended up getting sent to a children's home because I took a UA and dropped dirty for weed. I already told the probation officer I had weed in my system. But then he said I had cocaine in my system too, and my heart dropped. And come to find out, it was laced in the weed. So that sent me to a children's home. And I was in there till I turned 16, and they had to let me go because I was too old to be there. Instead of taking their offer of me staying in there longer, because they had this program that helped young adults, helped you learn life skills, get you a job, get you an apartment, get you set up and everything. Instead of doing that, I went back home to where I knew it was no good, but I missed it. I missed my family. So I go back home, and I go back to school, because this was around summertime. I was in the children's home, and I go back to school the next year, in my senior year. They told me since I didn't complete all my credits from the year before that I was still a junior, so I just dropped out. I was like, I'm not doing this all over again. I was like, just a waste of my time. So I dropped out of school. I started staying with the cousins again. Well, the oldest, his name was Levi. He told me one night that if I wanted to continue hanging out with them and being part of the family, that I had to do this drug. So I was like, all right. So I tried it, and it was all over from there, and that was meth. I had never done it, never thought about it, but I tried it, and it was over. I didn't really feel like I had a choice because I didn't really have anybody else. Not even a few weeks later, I'm starting to hustle it, like just to be able to get high. After a while, I get away from all that. I'm in this relationship, and her dad's a truck driver, so I decided I'm going to try truck driving to get away from everybody because he seemed to not be bothered by it. So that's what I did. When I was 23, I got my CDL, and I started driving trucks around. I ended up getting put on probation when I'm about 26. I stopped driving trucks at 26, and I get put on probation within a year of that for a domestic because I was drunk and jealous and just not a very good person at the time. So I go to jail. They put me on probation. I'm in there for about a month or two, and then I come back home. And I don't follow up on my probation at all. I told them to just give me my time whenever they put me on probation and send me on my way, but they wouldn't do that. I don't know why. So when I get home, I just continue in being a low life. Thinking about nobody but myself, just trying to get my next high, my next drink. So eventually, I come into some money, and I spend it all in 2.5 days. Most of it was spent on drugs, a lot of them. I got caught with pills, meth, and I think heroin in St. Louis County, and they arrested me for it. And after I get out, I go home, and I still avoid my probation officer from the first charge. I run. I don't turn myself in. I don't do nothing. But they eventually catch me. I go back up into St. Louis County, and I'm sitting there for a couple months, and they put me on probation, and I just told them, I'm like, why don't you just send me to prison, give me my time, because that's what they're going to do down here anyway. They're like, no, we're just going to put you on probation, and then they sent me to Camden County to where they sentenced me to prison. So this is all within a year. So I'm in Fulton for 5 months, sitting there waiting to get transferred out to wherever I'm supposed to go. And my other cousin, the youngest, he comes into the housing unit in a different wing, and he tells me that his brother died, the one that got me started using, and it was bad. So I eventually get out 2-3 years later, and I'm doing good. And I'm getting offered from people to get high. They're trying to get me to get high with them, and I'm doing good for about 3 months. I'm going and seeing my parole officer. I'm going to work every day. And then I avoided my dad the whole time, and then I finally answered his phone call. And he promised me he wouldn't use, be sober when I came to visit and everything. So I was like, all right. So I go and see him, and I walked in the house, and I just smelt it all. Smelt it everywhere. And then first words out of my mouth was, all right, where's it at? Let me hit it. And so it went all downhill from there again. It's bad for about a year or two, and then finally the law catches up with me again for violating my parole and my probation. And I get sent back up to St. Louis County, where I got to do 6 months for their little drug program up there. And I worked it. I got my GED up there, and I started working on myself, for myself, while I was up there. That's where I started thinking about where I was at in life. And I didn't like it. I was tired. I was exhausted. After I completed that program, they released me, and a few months later, I'm off parole. A few months after that, I'm off probation. So I was free and clear, and then I met this woman, and I started using again with her. Well, it was toxic, but I had it in my mind that she loved me, so I stayed. Well, before we moved down here, I had felt like nobody loved me because this woman and I were very toxic. She played all kinds of mind games with me. She'd make me feel like she loved me one day, and then the next day make me feel like nobody loved me and I was worthless and everything. And she just was good at gaslighting, I think is the term. Get you to think like there was something wrong with you, like they weren't doing anything to make you get all messed up in your head. I took a shoestring off my boot, and I tied one end around a railing in the house. Then I wrapped the other one, the other end around my neck, and tied it real tight there. And then I went from the top of the stairs and just let my legs go out from underneath me, and I was hanging there with my feet barely touching, tips of my toes barely touching the floor. And I don't remember anything after that until my head hits the wall. And I start breathing, and I look up, and she's standing there at the top with the scissors. She'd cut the bootstring, because you know how bootstrings are really tough. They're not really easy to break. So I couldn't believe I did that. And then that's not the only time. Shortly after that, I felt like I had no one again, including my family, because it seemed like no matter who I went to ask for help to try to get my mind right again and everything, they'd just make a mockery of me and put me down. And so I'd had enough, and I'm walking through Washington. I get to 5th and 47, and I go left, and I head straight for the Missouri Bridge. And I walk almost to the middle of it to make sure there was no land underneath it. And I climb over the edge. I climb over the rail. I wrap my arms around the rail like this, and I just let go of any control I had over holding on to the bridge and bracing myself to where I wasn't falling. I let all that go, and I was just hanging there and crying. And I was waiting for my arms to weaken enough, because there was no way for me to stop it after that. There was nothing for me to grab onto. There was nothing for me to stand on. And so I'm just sitting there and I'm waiting for my arms to give out. Right before they give out, this guy, he sees me somehow. He stops traffic. He stops his car. He gets out. He jumps over the rail that separates the road from the pathway. And he grabs a hold of me. And like I'm not even trying to help. I'm dead weight at this point. He eventually, with the help of one or two other guys, pulls me up over the rail, and I'm just balled up after that, still crying. And that guy saved my life that day. He had just gotten back surgery done, and he still stopped and saved me. And I never got a chance to thank him because I couldn't find out who it was. So I got sent to the hospital until I recovered. And after I got out, the woman I was with, she came and picked me up, and we talked about just running away. So we ran down here to Springfield. And we lived in her car for a couple weeks. But at some point during that couple weeks after we got down here, we went to the Salvation Army because she was trying to find resources to help us get a place to stay or whatever. She has to go to the bathroom, so we go to the bathroom, and it's right there next to their church. Well, after she's done and we're starting to walk out, just out of nowhere, I'm like, "You want to go to church?" Just out of nowhere. Never thought about going, nothing. And she said, yeah. So we went to church at the Salvation Army there on Kansas and Chestnut. And I don't know why I wanted to go to church that day. Well, I haven't thought about it, but I'm glad I did, because it's given me the strength to get out of all that toxicity, all that negativity. God has helped me in ways I never dreamed of. He's blessed me in ways I've never dreamed of. He helped me find higher ground through the Salvation Army. The lady there recommended higher ground for recovery. And so we both came to higher ground the first time. I succeeded. I graduated the whole program. Eventually got my own place again, had a job, worked every day, and then just because we were still toxic, we ended up using again, and everything went downhill. So we split up after 1 year of marriage. She went back up that way and left me here, and I was mad that I was abandoned down here. I was really mad. Like, nobody would come pick me up. Eventually, after about a week of trying to get home or trying to find out how I was going to eat my next meal, I went back up to the higher ground office, and I asked Ryan for help. And she helped me a lot by getting into the men's house. And it is one of the best things I've ever done for myself, because there's something about being in a house full of other guys who are truly trying to better themselves, not only with addiction, but with God and a family and just life in general. It helped me a lot. And there's no amount of things I can give for that. It helped me see better who I am as a person. It helped me break out of my box a little bit. And I was in the men's house, coming to church every weekend, going to Bible study every Wednesday, doing the classes. And I've read the Bible before. I read it from front to back twice while I was in prison. And I never really got anything out of it. I read it like a book. It's all you had to do when the whole was read the Bible, because that's all they give you. And I just thought it was a really good story for the most part. I didn't really understand it until I got here to High Life Church. And after I started seeing the ways I could apply what was being read or taught in the Bible, that I truly understand that it was a way to grow, a way to live, a way to succeed at getting away from my past. And with everybody here, it's a good thing, because it was kind of awkward at the first church I went to, because everybody was not raised like I was. There was not one person. So it was different coming here, a little easier to accept that I needed this, because for the longest time, I believed in God, but I didn't like him. I didn't think he really did anything for anybody. But now that I've been here, now that I see, and now that he's shown me, I believe 100%. God has blessed me with the one dream I've had since I was 7, since the beginning, and that's with my own family. He's blessed me with a wonderful woman, a beautiful daughter, and that's something I've wanted since I was 7. Never thought I could have, though, because, I mean, here I am 40, and now I got a 2-year-old. I gave up on that dream a long time ago, but then God showed me he was just waiting on me to acknowledge him and to have the strength to follow him. And that's what I pray for every time. I've never prayed for anything I have now. I just pray for his strength and his will, because that's all I need is his strength, because God doesn't just give it to you. He makes you work for it, but he helps you with it. Never did I think I have a home. He's given me that now too. I've got my own home. We don't rent no more. My daughter will never have to bounce around. We'll never have to worry about her next meal, all because God blessed us with what he's given us. That's all thanks to everybody here at High Life Church and everybody that works at Higher Ground. I've got a little over 4 years in recovery and no thoughts or no indication, no wanting of going back. I've got too much to lose, and I'm not losing it. So, thank you.